time. Scott, this is unbelievable. The guy's not even in the race. You know how much money Mitt Romney has spent, how much effort his campaign, Governor Perry's campaign have put, and you're telling me Christie is polling the same against President Obama as they are?
Well, you know, look, first of all, this says more about President Obama than it does about Chris Christie. His numbers are pretty much in this ballpark no matter who we put against him. Secondly, you may remember Rick Perry was the toast of the town a month ago. We actually showed him up by a few points over President Obama. It's much easier being the guy on the outside that people are begging you to come to the dance than it actually is when you get in and campaign. We don't know if Chris Christie's numbers would hold up. But what this is saying is there's a lot of Republicans that are looking for somebody, anybody, to beat President Obama.
Are these polls of Republican voters?
These are of all likely voters. And what we find is if it's Mitt Romney or Chris Christie, Democrats overwhelmingly prefer the president, Republicans overwhelmingly prefer the Republican, and those undecided, the unaffiliated voters are kind of split down the middle. This, again, is telling us a lot about President Obama's weakness. But if I were Chris Christie, I would remember the Rick Perry experience. You jump in, it's a different ballgame.
Well, and there are some reasons for him to pause based on your polling as well. Favorability ratings among them. You asked,
Right.
How do you view Governor Christie? 15% very favorable, 23% somewhat, and then 15% somewhat unfavorable, 12% very unfavorable, and 35% not sure. Does that speak to a name recognition problem, Scott?
It is a name recognition problem. All candidates have it early in the process. And the reason that's a potential problem for somebody like Chris Christie is there are an awful lot of people who would like to fill in the blanks of his resume. I can think of several other Republican candidates and, of course, the White House, who would all be only too happy to introduce Rick Perry on their own terms. Chris Christie on their own terms.
Yeah.
So yes, this is a vulnerability.
And now he doesn't have a lot of time now that we've moved up these early caucuses and primaries thanks to the Florida moving its date up. Let me ask you about poll number 3. The question was, how likely is it that Christie will run? Only 5% say very, 21% somewhat, 34% the most say it's not very likely, and about 29% say I'm not sure.
That's right. And look, even among Republicans, it's not like there's a huge groundswell of people who say it's likely he's going to run. Only 31% say it's likely. Only 32% of Republicans say he should run. So this is not a case of a man who the Republican electorate is begging him to enter the race. It's another hypothetical matchup. Again, every indication we have is that no matter what Republican we put up, the president gets from the low to mid-40s in his support. And that is the significant factor in all these polls. Mitt Romney, the only candidate who consistently comes out a little bit ahead of the president or a little bit behind. Others waver a bit more.
All right, Scott, thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you.